Good afternoon and good morning to everyone out there, and welcome to episode 78 of the Leading IT podcast. Today, Tom and I are going to talk about the SaaSpocalypse. Is it real, and what does it mean for Australian businesses? For those who are new, welcome to the Leading IT podcast, which is for Australian leaders who are trying to cut through the noise on AI, cybersecurity, data, cloud strategy, and leadership. I'm your host, Josh Rubens. I'm the CEO at consulting firm Empyrean IT, and I'm joined by CIO Tom Layden, and we tackle the fast-moving IT landscape from both sides of the fence with pragmatic, no BS advice that you can actually use. G'day, Tom. How you going?
Good, Josh. No BS advice you can actually use.
That's
TM.
right.
Trademarked.
That's right. That's right. You like
Mate,
it?
I like that. Hopefully that's true.
It is. So
It is true.
So it is today's topic. So just $1 trillion of the SaaS market value has
$1
been
trillion.
wiped out in the last 12 months.
Yep.
So this is real. It's not from that point of view, it's real. Something's happening, and I think there's definitely impacts on the ground for IT leaders and things they should be thinking about doing and considering. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But how are things going with you out there in consulting land, and any news for us?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, everything's, people are busy and it's all based on AI, which is great. So, yeah, it's actually quite generating a lot of work right now. But in my news, though, the first news piece I've got for you is that there's a lot of news around people losing their jobs because of AI. So Reuters just yesterday they were saying that there are about 10,000 jobs they're estimating were lost in the US last month alone due to AI. And there's a big large tech company laid off 4,000 people.
Yeah.
Specifically due to AI. So it's real. It's happening. It's actually happening. I don't know. There's only minor news of this in Australia. There's small bits and bobs. I think CBA let off 100 or so people due to AI, and that's quite small in the grand scheme of things. But I guarantee everyone who gets let off now, they'll say, "Oh, sorry, AI." I think it'll just be the excuse everyone uses. Are you seeing any of this? What are you seeing, Mr. Josh?
What am I seeing? I'm seeing a lot of worry and angst about it. That's what I'm seeing, and
Yes.
there's a lot of content out there about it, and not a lot of answers. Not a lot of answers, Tom.
Not a lot of answers.
I'm not seeing a lot of answers, but lots of questions, and the answers are not obvious. So how many data scientists and AI analysts can we have, and AI orchestration experts can we have? I don't think we need 1 billion of them. So,
but they're not the ones losing their jobs, right? It's more
no. I'm saying they're the ones.
Stuff.
I'm saying if they're the jobs of the future, that people are going to be, that we're going to need humans to do, then I think there's a lot of talk about people becoming tradies, moving into trade roles.
Yeah.
My view on that is you're buying 5 years.
5 years, you reckon?
Until the bots
take over.
Yeah, I reckon. So it might buy you. I'm talking about in 10 years' time. So if you're saying 10 years' time, so you probably in 10 years' time, the bots are going to be good enough to do that as well.
I'm too old to retrain as a plumber.
Yeah,
I'm pleased to report.
Yeah, so
what will our kids do?
I have heard, and there's also been in the papers. Finally, there's been a lot of talk around what roles are going to be the first to go. So yeah, they're all talking about admin roles where humans are essentially being robots, data entry. Those are the ones that are going first, and then it's going to move up the stack. But yeah, lots of talk, and also not knowing what to tell our children when they ask us what should they study.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not helping. Yeah,
because we don't know the answer to that, right? I mean, I actually don't know the answer.
I was listening to something with the CEO of Uber. He was asked a question, and he said no one's got there is no answers at this point. So, yeah.
But I think what I'd say to my kids, and I'd say to all kids, is like, that you'll never go wrong if you have good systems thinking and good inquiry brain. So if your brain is inquiring and you can think in the systems mode, there'll always be a job for you, I think.
And also good people skills.
human to human skills will be also highly valuable, I
Yeah.
suspect, and
Yeah.
being able to screw stuff together with your own hands. Hold a nail and a hammer, that might help.
For 5 years before robots can do
Do
it
that
better.
bit.
Yeah, before the robots can do it better. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of content, and it's a bit of watch the space on
Yeah,
that.
and we'll talk more about that, obviously. But what else is your news, Josh?
Well, the first one is non-AI related. Well, it is AI related, but it's about Varonis acquiring alltrue.ai. So, are you familiar with Varonis, Tom?
No, can remind me.
So, Varonis is sort of the premier data governance tool in the market. It's been around for a very long time in the enterprise space around tagging data within documents, within structured and unstructured
Right.
data, being able to tag and look
Okay.
at when people are doing the wrong thing. It had a gap around actually doing data loss prevention. So a lot of customers would use Varonis in conjunction with something like Microsoft Purview, and with Purview getting better in the last few years, Microsoft Purview's got a lot better. They have been cutting Varonis's lunch because they don't have the end-to-end, but now Varonis are acquiring alltrue.ai, which is going to give them the end-to-end ability to do visibility and securing across AI systems. So they're going to be able to do end-to-end, right? So be able to see what AI systems and agents exist, how they're connected, what they do, be able to control it, reduce risk, and provide accountability across the whole space. So I think it's for customers, and I know I have quite a few customers that have Varonis, and I know a few of them listen to this podcast. So I think smart move by Varonis, and will make it less likely that these clients will migrate to Purview. So I think it's a good
Yeah, right.
defensive and
Yeah.
offensive move by Varonis. Yeah.
What sort of customers buying this particular tool?
So anyone who's got large amounts of file data.
Unstructured data,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they need something to go through it and put in the tags
Well,
and
we'll work
classify it.
out where all the where all your PII data is, or your financial data or credit card data, because normally you can't see it, and block and who has permissions and access to it, because most organisations have got files that are over permissioned, and then AI will really
Yeah, right. Yeah.
opens it up. So up until now, Varonis could only do the identification piece; they couldn't do the block piece. Now,
Right.
with the acquisition of alltrue.ai, they can do the whole thing end to end. So if you
Yeah,
go to a
beautiful.
Copilot and say, "I want to see this file," it will block it, not just say someone's trying to do something. So it's going to do the whole end to end, and it looks like it's also going to be across agents, give you visibility
Okay.
and management across. So
Yeah.
I think it's a really good move, and then I think it will prevent a lot of clients who have Varonis from moving to Purview. So so
Yeah, makes
that's
sense.
that one. Yes.
Yeah, beauty. I don't have any other news, Josh. So do
Oh,
you have any other news
I
items?
do. I
Good man.
do.
Good
I'm
man.
glad you didn't get this one. I was certain you would have this one. So, Amazon is going to space with data
Oh,
center
I saw
startup
this. I didn't
StarCloud.
believe it though. I thought it was good. What a load of rubbish. But I
No,
mean,
it's
there's some merit
true.
to it though.
It's true. It's true. I had a look. So, this StarCloud, which is backed by NVIDIA and a lot of other investment firms. So their long-term plan is to deploy 88,000 satellites. So they've actually filed this with the
Right.
US Federal Communications Commission. So there's currently only 15,000 satellites. So they're going to deploy a massive amount to take advantage of solar power, radiative cooling, and the ability to scale sizes and power levels not possible on Earth. So
Yeah,
pretty
right.
exciting. So this is
So is this like a Starlink type competitor? So they're going to provide Wi-Fi type services, or is it just a
not
different
no. This is
service?
space data centers. These are space
Space
data
data center.
centers. So that
Well,
go on.
yeah. Like I was saying, with like the space data center to a space data center lag is quite small because there's
Yeah,
nothing stopping the data transmission.
true.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. So
So you can beam up and then you just zip across space to somewhere else. Mate, you are a massive sci-fi nerd. You love that.
So hang on. In November, they already launched a satellite with NVIDIA's H100 GPUs on board. So they're already querying responses using Google's Gemma large language model. So they've already done one, which is why I didn't think this was an April 1st, BS
A joke.
article, a joke. So it looks like and looking at who's backing it, it looks like this could be something. And Elon's been talking about this as well, right? He's also started a space data center company. And so I think there's something here. Yes, I am a Star Trek nerd and
Tragic.
sci-fi nerd, but I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, that is really interesting. Is that the future?
Well, I mean, God, how much does it cost to put a data center in space? Who knows? But we're running out of them on Earth, aren't we?
Well,
Like they
power's
can't get enough of them.
Power's becoming
The issue.
Yeah.
And how do they cool them? I guess they just open the door.
Well,
it's space cooler.
Space is cold.
As we know.
Freaking freezing out there. It is. What is it, minus 60 or something?
Yeah, right. Okay, so cooling's on your shoes, so you don't need water, and you just need solar power to run the thing.
Yeah.
Why not, eh?
Let's see.
Shall we just jump to our main topic, Josh? Or do you have more news?
Hang on. Right, deep space, minus 270 degrees Celsius. There you go.
Thank you for your fact.
I just wanted to fact check that. So, yeah. So I think cooling may not be an issue, Tom. Just saying.
There you go. So just power. So you don't need the water, but water's a massive issue for data centers at the moment.
Yes.
But only to cool, right? So once that's solved, not a problem. Right. Let's get into our big topic.
Yeah. So Tom, you mentioned in our pre-planning, hours long pre-planning sessions, the original article that started this SaaSpocalypse. So why don't you talk about that, and then I'll run with it.
I mean, there was some trouble a while ago, but I see in February there was a blog, just a blog, nothing too bad, a very well written blog from some financial analysts who basically was from 3 years from now, and they were talking about the effects of AI on SaaS and the effects on the general economy. So. Very well written, very well researched article, but basically said massive unemployment and huge problems across the world, basically because AI is now eating SaaS. And it was very compelling. Frankly, their argument primarily was, well, now that AI can write code, why do you need to buy SaaS?
Yeah.
Why do you need to invest in SaaS? And that, on a very superficial level, sounds like a really good idea. But I think we need to unpack that further, Josh.
Yeah, let's unpack the
so
crap out of that.
But let's just get to a point like, how do we get to here? Because I think Claude released their version, version 4.6 early Feb. People said, "Holy crap, this thing can code stuff really, really well," and it can. I think a lot of people are already using it. Everyone I speak to, every second person I says, "Oh, I did this thing in Claude, and oh my god, I've done this stuff." It's like the new barbecue conversation, unfortunately. So people are just banging out all sorts of weird and wonderful software tools in minutes or hours, using things like AWS as their back end. And anyone with half a software brain is producing the software of their dreams. So it's a bit of a nightmare for most people. But yeah, people know what they're doing. They can produce an enormous amount of software using Claude. Stuff that would have taken weeks and months of software engineers can now be done in minutes or hours. In fact, I'm doing it right now, right? And it
even while you're doing the podcast, you're building software.
Mate, it's like I'm like an evil genius. There's all this code coming up. And
it's
unbelievable.
Amazing.
For someone who's been doing this, the trained software engineer, for someone who's been doing this for 30 years, this is like my dream come true. So finally, I can realize my own software ambitions.
You can code yourself out of a job, Tom.
I'm trying every single day.
Yes.
But I mean, what it means, it's phenomenal. So we'll get into this in a little bit more detail. But this is a serious change.
Yeah, for sure. So, Claude released 4.6. So this AI plugin for lawyers came out, and then the iShares ETF for software was in free fall, and that was where Jeffries, the traders at Jeffries, called this thing the SaaSpocalypse. So there's 3 or 4 things going on. So what the forces the three or four forces that are going on at the same time. So SaaS stocks are down between 15 and 50%. You mentioned there's $1 trillion. And what's driving that is that what they're calling the seat count crisis. So if I have a user that can do, where I needed 10, I've got one person, an agent, so I'll need one license instead of 10.
Yep.
So whereas a lot of the SaaS model that's been based on seat count. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the vibe coding platforms. So the numbers are that you can replace bespoke off-the-shelf SaaS products with a vibe coded tool. And apparently 35% of enterprises have already replaced at least one.
Wow.
The third thing that's going on is every major vendor is releasing an AI agent platform. So Microsoft, Salesforce, ServiceNow, SAP, Workday. So they are embedding. So that is a protection play where the vendors are releasing agents into their platform. And the other thing that's happening is, the SaaS interface is being replaced by a prompt layer and agents. So if having a beautiful interface is now not the differentiator, then what is the differentiator, right? So these are the things that are all going on at the same time that is creating, in my IMHO, my humble opinion, that I think is, looking at the complete picture, not just vibe coding is the end of SaaS. I don't think so, but I think that's for our discussion, Tom. What are your thoughts on that?
So it sounds like a bit of a perfect storm, right, doesn't it? So AI has obviously come of age. It is fascinating. So anyone who's had to negotiate a SaaS license in the past 10 years will know how bloody awful it is. So first of all, they're going to jack your price up by far more than inflation, right? And they're going to try and flog you a whole bunch of features that no one really knew about or used properly anyway. And then they'll try to convince you to buy enterprise or the next upgrade thing as well. So you're coming at this thing from a base of, oh shit, I'm going to get done over by Salesforce, Atlassian, you name it, Zapier, whatever. There's a whole bunch of these guys. Everyone's in on it. And they've had a great run for the last 10 years. Right? They've had this fabulous run where we'll get in, we'll land, and we'll expand. And essentially the transition costs for the poor consumer have been non-existent. There'd been no other option. And finally, we've got, hang on, I've got some options here. So Salesforce or HubSpot or whoever.
Not in all cases, Tom. So let's go through the numbers. I like that we're taking opposite sides of the table because it's good. It's good. What's the old saying? If we both agree, one of us isn't required at this meeting. So looking at the numbers, so Salesforce is down 40% in 12 months. Adobe 35%, ServiceNow 50, Workday 15, Microsoft only a few percent, and Oracle is up 4%. So that's the 12-month numbers. Yeah. Now the other thing that's interesting is the value's down, even though they're beating their revenue numbers. So that's the other interesting point is that the market's responding in this way despite the fact they're hitting their numbers and they're increasing their revenue. So that's
never about their numbers though, Josh.
Never
ever about their numbers.
No. So again, so the seat count crisis, they've got an AI agent replace a human. So how are they gonna, so if they're migrating now from a per seat model to an outcome model or to a token model, how is, and from a customer point of view, like that's really, you've been a CIO. How do you go to the CFO and say, well, we're not buying seats, we're buying tokens, and the CFO will go, well, how much we're going to use a year? You go, I don't know. I got no idea.
Tokens are a complete nightmare for everyone. Everyone who listens to this call will know. Tokens are a disaster. But I think they'll be doing a few things to protect their revenue. They've got a few options to protect revenue. But before we go down that path, the revenue protection path, can we just talk about the real options people have got today, right? Because as you alluded to, Josh, people aren't going to go out and rip out Salesforce with their vibe-coded app that the intern wrote 3 months ago.
No.
You and I know that's ridiculous, but the market seems to think that this is an actual thing. That hang on, anyone could just zip up Salesforce or Adobe or whatever. So
no.
no, that's
They're ignoring. There's a few major points here. So
can we go through that?
yeah, if I may. So firstly, it sounds very much like the low code revolution from 5 years ago.
Yeah, right.
It's low
Yeah,
code
yeah.
on steroids, really, and in fact, Power Platform has evolved from to be called the new vibe coding platform for the enterprise. Now, the one reason why not just because we do Power Apps is why platforms like Microsoft are going to do well is because their vibe coding platform has the enterprise governance and security built in. Firstly, so if you go to whatever Lovable or whatever it is, nice, you can build an app, but where is security? Where is the identity? How are you going to integrate it into the rest of your environment? That's the issue. Whereas a platform like Power Platform, which is has all the enterprise things that you need. If you're a business, if you're a reasonable sized business, you would want to not say no to vibe coding, but you would want to have a governance and a framework for users to go in and build these apps, not on their own homegrown tool. It would be on something like Power Platform, which
Yeah,
can
that's right.
go through an enterprise application lifecycle management process.
Yeah.
You can have test, dev, prod. Not, I've built this thing, it's in prod.
Well, it works,
How's
mate.
it built? I have no idea how it's
Yeah, it
built because
works.
I vibe
Yeah.
coded it. What's the security? What's the integration? What's the API? How do I manage this thing ongoing? That is a freaking nightmare. That is a shadow IT nightmare of worse proportions than we've ever had. That's my opinion. So I think you're building it on a firstly, if you're going to do it, build it on a platform that has the security and governance. So like Microsoft, obviously, Salesforce will have their own, and ServiceNow have their own. A lot of these vendors, and there are advantages and disadvantages to all of those. But pick a platform that has all the enterprise stuff you need around governance, application lifecycle management, and security. That is the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is data gravity. So it's all about the data, right? So where your data sits is going to be very hard. So that's the
Yes.
moat. I
Yes.
think for these enterprise SaaS providers, that's the moat. So for ERP vendors, like SAP, Dynamics 365, so Microsoft or Salesforce, who've got your data. If you're an enterprise, I would think so. Those sort of core platforms. I mean, Tom, you can argue with me. You would keep your core platforms there, and they're releasing embedded agents that you can utilize on your platform where your data is already at. I would think that would be
Yep. I think that's part of
a
it.
low risk move.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
think yeah, Vibe brings these like all of this power to a whole bunch of people who really don't
Yeah.
know what they're doing. They have no
Yeah.
idea what they're doing. So
Yeah.
they're not trained software architects or engineers.
No.
But they know they kind of think they know what they're doing. So you're right, security is a massive problem. Bloat is a huge problem. But your data gravity is a really good point, Josh, because these things what they'll do is they'll create their own databases, right? And the poor user won't even know what's going on. And it's just pumping data in and out of somewhere somehow. How is that secured? How is that integrated into your overall data plan and architecture? Yeah, that's a really
The
good
word
point.
nightmarish comes from. If you're a CISO, it's a nightmare. It would be a nightmare. Where's that application come from? Oh, I don't know. I built it on Lovable. Oh, great. What's the how do we pen test that? So I think that's where I think so. Vibe coding is good, but do it on a platform that has security and has integration where you know what you're doing. That's the first thing. So I think we could probably agree on that. Core platforms are not going to go away from Vibe. So CRM, ERP, like your core stuff is not going away, and that's where I think the transition is more for CIOs is to platforms rather than niche. So
platforms. We've been saying that for a long time, right?
We have, and I think the ones that are at risk are the narrow SaaS applications that do one thing.
Yes.
That would do one thing. So anything, if you're doing some sort of OH&S app or some sort of expense claims or project management, like those sort of narrow apps, I would have thought they're ripe for. If the numbers I saw is that most enterprises have between 1 and 200 SaaS applications.
Yep.
So if you might go to 5 platforms, but you might build around that a constellation of 10 or 20 low-code, vibe coded applications built on a platform like Power Apps, where you have the Dataverse back end that can
Yep,
go into your
that's
data
correct.
lake, and you've got your
Yeah,
AI agents built in, you've got your
yeah.
security and your governance. To me, I feel like that's,
Consolidation,
yeah,
SaaS consolidation. In fact, we predicted this, right, Josh, back in
yes,
our last podcast. But honestly, that's where I'm seeing a lot of inquiries. We've got this massive SaaS nightmare. We're trying to work that out. Vibe coding is part of the answer, but as you said, it's only when you vibe on top of an existing platform and you shut off a whole bunch of different things that have sprung up over the last
yeah,
decade.
and maybe you don't need to buy all the modules from the platform. Maybe
That's my
you
next point.
can
Really
vibe
good point.
code a
Yeah,
bunch
yeah,
of
yeah.
things. So workflow automation, business intelligence dashboards, project
Yeah,
management,
yeah.
customer support, like point solutions. I think if you're a SaaS vendor and you've got a point solution that is not verticalized,
Mm,
you should be worried.
mm,
Be worried today.
mm.
I would think.
I think you're spot on.
Um, that's right. But I think the ones that have your data at the moment, I think are only going to get stronger. The other ones that are safe, if I may, it's like cybersecurity. That's CrowdStrike. Get
Yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
uh,
because that took a hit, didn't it? Right, it's just taken
yeah,
a huge hit
yeah.
recently. But
Snowflake,
like, yeah,
Microsoft, Oracle, like they're all good. And the other ones that I think are going to be, I don't know what your view is on this, Tom, is um, the highly specialized vertical applications. So if you've
yeah,
got a SaaS platform
yes,
for health or for
yes,
insurance,
yes,
so things
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
Viva for the pharmaceutical industry, or
yeah,
Guidewire for insurance, like
yeah, yeah.
those things, I think are going to be um, reasonably safe. That's
I
so.
know, I agree, and particularly if you've got apps that speak to specific, IoT type devices or party, point of sale devices or whatever, where they've got specific and valuable connections into something of value in your organization, then
Yeah,
obviously that interface is incredibly valuable in its own right,
yeah,
and there's an ecosystem. However, you're making a really good point. It's like, okay, so not all SaaS is going to die.
no,
SaaS is going to rotate around your data, and your data is going to be based on key points of interest in your organization. So finance, people, whatever it is, your operations thing, whatever that is. So you'll have these big satellites,
and
and then
they're going to have agents that they're providing with it. Like Microsoft's
that's right.
already released 10 agents for their Dynamics platform, and all the
Yeah.
others are doing the same thing. So I think that's where enterprises are going to probably go first.
Yes.
And while
But
they're building their own agents and have
yes.
a strategy around vibe coding. So the technical, the dark side of vibe coding. So a Veracode report said that nearly half of AI generated code contains security flaws, despite appearing production ready, and AI co-authored code contains approximately 1.7 times more major issues than human written code, with security vulnerabilities 2.74 times higher.
Really, but that's going to
Yes,
decrease though. To be honest with you, in the
sure,
vibe front, like it's going to get
sure.
better.
It just means there needs to be oversight.
Yes, very much so.
You need a human
Yeah,
in the loop, and you need to build it into a platform where there is checking. I did note that Claude announced their own code checking tool,
yeah, yeah.
and that impacted the cyber shares by 8% overnight. Like all the cyber shares dropped immediately by 8%.
Like, damn
So
it.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, it's on the inside of that information, hey? No, I wouldn't do
yes,
that.
yes.
But so where does this leave you, right, as a CIO? Because we said at the start of this call how annoying it was to have to negotiate price with these big guys, knowing that they've locked up your data and your processes and your people.
Yeah,
So where does this leave you? And so I've got a few ideas around that, because I
cool.
think there is, and I think this is why the big guys are taking a hit in their share price. It's because there is an opportunity to downgrade your licensing. So not turn them off, but maybe you don't need A, the number of seats you've got, B, all the licensing features that they've flogged you over the years. So maybe if you have a look at all the features you've got, you can actually say, you know what, 3 of these I can now vibe code, for lack of a better
Yeah,
word. I can do that myself. And we can actually get these guys back onto a core or basic or whatever the terminology is, And that gives you an opportunity to go into these negotiations saying, actually, I'm not going to change you out, but we're going to start to really reduce you. And look at the fear in your
Yeah.
rep's eyes when you start talking about that.
Yeah. So instead of, I think so if no one ever has to log into your platform and everything is done by an AI agent, what is the value of your product? And if they can't articulate that to you, then you probably should look at something else. So I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. Yeah, but the reality is the important guys have got massive amounts of data and value add on top of your data, right? To your point,
for sure. So I think the things to evaluate when you're negotiating with a vendor are now different to number of seats, features, UI, like the sort of things you would look at have got to be different. So things like, can agents talk to each other across applications? Is there an orchestration tier for agents? What sort of governance and audit trail? What sort of governance and security do you have in your platform? Is your data open? Is there openness? Have you got a walled garden, or is there data portability? Like, will your data talk to other applications? And they've, vendors like SAP, they've already been taken to court over that and lost. Because they're trying to, protect their investment. And how are you going to charge me, right? With these AI agents, is it going to be tokens? Is it going to be? How is this going to work moving forward? So So I think it's for an IT leader. It's really changing your thinking to how is this going to look over the next few years, rather than, okay, I need 500 seats and the usual temp. I'm going to wear the 15% price increase and and go with my hand out to the CFO and get whipped. So I think if you can be thinking about that, I think those are probably some good considerations there. Yeah.
So my question then, Josh, is moving to that revenue protection piece. So if you're in charge of one of these companies, mid-tier SaaS companies, you've been told explicitly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This is what would you start doing to protect your revenue?
You have to build agents. You have to start building agents that you can provide to your customers, like Microsoft has done, like lots of others are doing. I wouldn't be. I think it would not be smart to try and lock down your data and go into protection mode. I don't think that would be. I think you would be trying to add value, be open, and trying to help customers evolve, because I think customers are looking for help at leadership in this space, and I think providing those sorts of agents.
That's it. That's really interesting. I would have said a few things. I think the bad guys. I think they'll do a few things. I think they'll start charging tokens. That tokens will be a new thing on your bill, and that'll somehow start. There'll be some rate of tokens that no one will really understand, and it won't be a link to outcome, the business outcome. It'll be linked to something. And then that rate will just increase magically, like monopoly money or something. I don't know. So I think that's something everyone needs to watch out for. Do they really understand token burn in their contract? Because it might have been a thing on the side that didn't really matter. I think it's going to come to the fore, right? Everyone's going to have this token cost on Salesforce.
I was doing something in Claude, and I was halfway through building something. Ran out of tokens.
Yeah.
And I went in and I checked, and there's like an unlimited thing. You had to turn it. I had to limit it to $100, otherwise it was going to be unlimited. So, and it got me like $100. It got me to finish the task. It took $100. Tom.
Yeah.
Is that cheap?
It's probably I don't know what you're building, Josh. I don't want to know.
It's probably no. It wasn't anything unsavory. But I'm just saying that.
I'm not saying it was,
but it literally cost me $100. So
and you had no idea how to predict that. And if you knew it was going to be $100 at the start of this thing, you might have thought twice about doing it.
Yeah,
might not. I don't know.
Okay, so from this sort of bad. So Celonis sued SAP over data restrictions, and a US district court ruled that SAP must face the lawsuit. So Salesforce has raised prices on applications that tap into its data.
Yeah.
And connector fees are
Connector
being
fees.
charged. Yes.
That's my next point.
Yes.
So they're going
Yes.
to
Yes.
basically data ingress and egress is going to be now a thing from SaaS. So they'll say,
Yeah.
hey, our data's open, no worries, but they'll start charging you for the
Yes.
movement of data, which they haven't done previously, right? So
Yes. Yes.
congratulations, surprise. Here's a new way to get you because that data is valuable. That's why we want to talk to your app because you've got our data.
So coming at this from the other side. So what are the numbers? So Microsoft's most recent earnings report showed that Microsoft's cloud had crossed 50 billion in quarterly revenue for the first time, so up 26% from a year earlier. So and Azure grew nearly 40%. So, and Oracle is also growing as well. So that shows companies that are not being disrupted. These are companies where AI is getting built on top of.
Yeah.
So that's what I think so those sorts of companies that have the input, so Amazon, those sorts of companies where, all these SaaS vendors and all the companies are building their infrastructure, the AI infrastructure on are going up.
There you
So
go.
that's the other side.
There you go.
So I think that's what's safe. So if you're an investor, they're safe. Cybersecurity shares are safe. Vertical software is safe. And anything that has your data is going to be safe. Others are going to be disrupted by vibe coding platforms.
Absolutely. And then the next one I just want to talk about was API lockdowns. This is something you want to be understood. So the reason vibe coding is so good is because you tap into someone else's API. And API, most SaaS vendors have APIs, knowing full well that most customers won't ever use them or know about them. They might ask them at the negotiation, but they'll never get into it. Now with vibe coding, everyone is smashing everyone's API, right? And look out for charges around APIs. Be the next big thing, I'd suggest. So,
and what about governance? So how are customers going to govern these agents? So how are we going to do AI governance? So I think that's something customers need to think about is, obviously Microsoft announced Agent 365. So you've got to get on top of your governance. How you going to have visibility, control around managing these agents?
Yes.
Because it's going to become a thing very quickly.
Yes. Agent sprawl. You talked about that in our last.
Yes. So I think that's really important.
So agent sprawl and then access aspects of this. So one of the challenges you're going to have is you'll have people out in your organizations vibe coding and picking all sorts of weird and wonderful APIs.
Yeah.
What controls do you have over your data access? Before this was a thing, people couldn't get to it. It wasn't an issue. Now they can. So you need to have access layers at different levels of your firm. I'm sure you've got products for that, right, Josh?
Yeah. Entra ID has an agent. Has agent ID, so we can control it like a person, what they can access to.
There you go.
All that sort of stuff.
All right.
And then there's the workforce transformation. So how are our poor users going to transition in this world, getting used to working with agents? So that change management piece is going to be.
You know what? On Friday, I had
big.
3 conversations with people our age, senior people in the organisation saying, one said, I just employed 2 grads and then I discovered Claude and I wish I employed none.
Yeah.
Then another person said, we're trying a legal partner saying, we're trying one of those legal AIs. It's like, holy shit, we've got to rethink everything about what we know about how we train our staff.
Yep.
And then the third one said, I want to unleash vibe coding to all my staff. It's like, go for it. So that workforce thing's a real problem.
And come and make sure he has a strategy and a governor and how he's going to manage that ongoing. So that is. I spoke to someone who said, "Shit, I wish I was 10 years older so I didn't have to deal with this." But
I think the kids will be okay because they'll just come in and go, there's new ways of doing work. You old buggers, get out of the way. But yeah, you're right. This whole idea, what do you need your workforce to actually be moving forward? I don't have an answer to that, Josh. We talked about that a few times.
Yeah. So I think the things that I mentioned that were, future jobs are AI orchestrator, prompt engineer, AI governance officer, and agent quality assurance analyst. I don't know if that's going to fill the 20 million drivers that are going to be out of jobs very soon from driverless cars. So actions for IT leaders, what they should do. So, do you mind? I might say a few, and you can give your comment. One, audit your SaaS portfolio for AI disruption risks. So, have a look at what you have, what's right for disruption, what do I need,
Yeah, yep.
and what could I replace with
Love it.
a low code or a vibe code application? What is safe
Yeah,
for me
yeah.
to start looking at? It's costing me 50 grand a year. Could
Mm.
I, and it's a very narrow,
Use case.
application.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can build it and use it on that. So so have a look at your SaaS portfolio and start looking at vibe code or agent opportunities. Firstly, make sure you've got data portability negotiated into your contracts with your SaaS vendors. Set up an AI governance framework. So that's not just Agent 360. That is not just a product. You need to work out how, as a business, you're going to use it, how you
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to govern it, what is your policy
Yeah, yeah.
in your business, and then pilot agents across 2 or 3. Get into it. Pick 2 or 3 workflows for your business. Don't let the tools guide you, but pick 2 or 3 things that you think are going to solve some problems in your business. Get in. Don't resist. If you resist, the users will run over you like a tidal wave.
They
It's
will.
like trying to resist the iPhone 15 years ago. It was a waste of time. Looking at how you can add some sort of AI role within your IT team. Who's going to look after this stuff? Who's in control of AI across your team? Whether it's security, governance, orchestration,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then and look at build versus buy, right? For
Yeah,
commodity SaaS. Your budgeting to outcome-based SaaS metrics, and then look at an internal AI fluency program. So those are,
yeah.
I think, some things you should be doing
Yeah.
over the next 12 to
Can
24 months.
I add to that?
Please do.
So I think enterprise architecture, you really need to make sure you fully understand and articulate your enterprise architecture.
Yeah.
And that's not just, as you said, you need to review all your apps, but you actually need to understand where your data is, what your processes are, what your security is. You
Yeah.
need to understand all layers of enterprise architecture, and you need to be the guy who owns that space,
Yeah.
because that's going to be really valuable, really, really valuable as these vibe people. As the head of marketing comes to you and says, "Oh, 3 guys just did this thing, and I want to go live with it." Blah blah blah. So you've got to be the owner of this space.
Yeah.
And you need to do it now, because the rest of the company won't have any idea why, what's going on. So knowing your data, your process, your tools, how they all come together to add value to your organization, I think is really, really important.
All right, and I'll finish on 3 strategic bets you should be making over the next couple of years.
All good. Yeah, you're gonna have stock picks.
No. 1, bet on platforms, not point solutions. Look at platforms we have, but these are bets.
Reiterated.
So these vendors will survive and thrive. They're going to build an agent ecosystem. They're going to have security. They're going to have governance. They're going to have orchestration built in. Second, bet on data. So if the UI is commoditized and agents are abstracting away, your competitive advantage is your proprietary data. So making sure your data is clean, secure, accessible, and well governed. So invest in data.
That's what I'm saying.
Talk to a company that can help you build a data layer called it. You know who I am. Yes. And then making sure that you have humans in the loop. So it's humans plus agents, not just agents.
Yes,
so
very
it's
much so.
and agents collaborating. So those are my 3 bets. And I read something saying that the CIO is now the chief orchestrator of the intelligent enterprise. So you're now an orchestrator.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You're the point person. Basically, you are the point person at the board level, exec level, who can explain how all this stuff works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important.
So where we get to, is SaaS dead? Is it the SaaSpocalypse? Is it changing? Where do you think we got to?
Well, obviously it's not dead. Obviously, key SaaS tools are really important, but there's an opportunity to reinvent your SaaS enterprise portfolio, consolidate, reduce the money, and skill up. In no particular order.
Wise words, young man. I love that beard. It's all rabbinic. You look like almost a rabbi or a priest, depending on
It'd be lucky
Rabbi Layden.
My Mrs. Layden said, "You look like Papa Smurf." So
yes.
I might go. I think that was
as she told you, she's going to shave it while you're sleeping. Because
Almost.
if I was her, I would. Might give her a ring.
I
Goodness
think
me.
the Papa Smurf comment was the last.
It's
That was
out
it.
of
Okay, it's
control.
going.
It's out of control, Tom. That's all I'm saying.
All right. On that
Awesome.
note,
Thanks everyone for listening out there. Hope you've enjoyed and got value out of this out of our no BS conversation, Tom, and got some
through that.
got some action items. If you want to reach out to Tom, you can find him on LinkedIn, Tom Layden, Leydn, and myself on LinkedIn, Josh Rubens. If you want to have a chat around your agent strategy or data, feel free to reach out. And otherwise, have a good time out there in IT land. Thanks, Tom.
Speak soon. Good on you, Josh. Thank
See
you.
you, everyone. See you.